You're watching Arise America with me, Tolu Ojelme. We're reaching you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Fantastic. We have Rotimi right on the line now. Thank you very much indeed, Rotimi, for joining us on Arise America.
Well, thank you, Tolu, for having me again. Sorry for the audio disruption there.
It's okay. It's okay. Not your fault. So then, how did you receive the news of President Donald Trump getting Nigeria back on the list of a country or countries of particular concern?
Well, first of all, I think it wasn't any surprise, thing for the United States under the Trump administration to return Nigeria back into the list. Remember that in his first term, towards the twilight of his first term, Nigeria was on that list. That tells you that President Trump is particularly concerned about the situation in Nigeria, particularly the killing of Christians, or what is now been termed as Christian genocide. And so when in his second term, less than a year into his administration, bringing Nigeria back, thanks to pressure from so many congressmen and senators, that wasn't any surprise for me. And I think this time around, because he has enough time left in his term, is determined to actually get this to a logical conclusion. Just like he said, he reiterated that if the Nigerian government actually do nothing about it, the United States will be forced to actually take action.
You're saying, Rotimi, that this time around, President Trump is determined to see this to a logical conclusion because he's got ample time in his hands. So what could that logical conclusion be in your assessment?
Well, he has made it very clear. He said that there's going to be military action, targeted surgical military action on the terrorists, not on the country. So the United States administration is not interested in going to war with Nigeria or Nigerian military. So, and I think that's the opposite narrative that has been perpetuated, so to speak, all around the news media. And the reaction has generated a whole lot of, a negative misrepresentation of what the president actually said when he said he's going to go head on and obliterate the terrorists in Nigeria. So I think the president made it very clear, and I think it's serious this time, because when you look at what the Secretary of War said, that there's plan in place to carry out the president's orders. So it's very clear that it's just a matter of time if the Nigerian government under the Tinubu administration do not do anything about it, that the United States will take those action. But we hope that that is not going to strain the relationship that the Nigeria and the United States have enjoyed over the decades, because we know that that's the one of the perhaps the biggest of Nigeria's trading partners is the United States. So if that is that relationship is strained, definitely is going to affect Nigeria. Maybe in the short term, it could affect the United States as well.
I'm going to come later, Rotimi, to how it will affect Nigeria. How do you see these steps, these factors, U.S. Military action on Nigeria affecting the U.S.?
Well, first of all, when I talk about the trading partners, I think you made mention of AGOA, which means that the small or large trade that exists between the United States and Nigeria, where small businesses can actually export their goods to the United States, will definitely be stopped. That would hopefully, obviously not hopefully, I mean, like, unfortunately, will affect, small businesses in Nigeria and big businesses alike. We know also that Dangote industries, and they export sugar, salt, petroleum products, etc., to the United States. If there's sanctions put in place, that definitely will affect the industries back home in Nigeria. So there are other things as well, like stopping aids to come to Nigeria. The United States uh, dole out billions of dollars, if not millions, to the continent, and Nigeria enjoys perhaps maybe one of the largest share of that aid to the country. So there could be a lot of economic consequences that could happen as a result.
How are Nigerians in the US taking these developments? How are they managing it?
Well, I think Nigerians here are sort of divided in terms of whether the steps that the United States is about to take on the terrorists in Nigeria is something that is sustainable or something that will be to the benefit of the people. With speaking with a couple of Nigerians here, there's some support that action because they feel that that could sort of stave off, the threats and stop the killing or perhaps maybe diminish the wanton killings in especially in the Middle Belt parts of Nigeria. While some feels that if the United States actually invade Nigeria, that could further disintegrate the country. The country is already divided along political and regional lines, and that could further, fuel, that disintegration. So it's a 50-50, I'm going to say.
50-50. So what are the expectations now from the Nigerian government in a nutshell? What would President Trump and his cabinet be expecting President Bola Tinubu to do in the coming days to avert the unwanted?
Well, first of all, I think the statement is pretty clear from the White House. Fix your house, and we definitely will not do anything. The White House actually expected Nigeria government to perhaps put everything in motion to stop the killings, and with proven evidence that that has been stopped in a couple of weeks, or perhaps maybe days from now. So the United States will know that the country is actually serious about the its people and especially people of Christian religion. Also, the United States, I wouldn't say that they expect, a lot of some high level talks, but we've not seen that actually happening. We've not, because Nigeria do not have currently ambassador to the United States and to many other countries. So there's no, that mediation that could occur between the two countries. But of course, the foreign minister and the Secretary of State, I believe by now should be meeting and discussing and ironing out those things. Those things have not happened. And that is kind of a problem. We've seen President Trump making a nationwide address mentioning the action the United States is about to take in Nigeria and also Christians around the world. And President Trump is gradually becoming a poster boy for, people of Christian faith and also people that are being, marginalized in different ways. However, I think at this point, the United States will still go ahead to do whatever they want to do, is just to put that statement out there and show the terrorists, especially not Nigerians. And I think that communication needs to be straightened out from both sides to be sure that the level of agitation that's now in Nigeria over the fact that the U.S. is about to invade Nigeria could actually be quelled in a way that they will know that the United States moving into Nigeria has absolutely no ulterior motives. to any sort of resources or perhaps maybe waging war against the people of Nigeria.
All right, Rotimi, let me try right here to play the devil's advocate. Some are saying that President Trump is not entirely honest about his interest in Nigeria in this context. Right, that he's got something up his sleeves that he might be trying to make a deal with Nigeria in some other way, and just trying to come through protecting Christians in Nigeria. That there is no Christian genocide in Nigeria. I'm not saying there is Christian genocide. I'm not saying there is not Christian genocide. I'm just trying to play the devil's advocate right here. So what's your submission about this?
Well, I think we have almost the same, doubts about whether the intentions were right. I'm not in President Trump's mind to know or decipher whether he has an ulterior motive to come to Nigeria for something else apart from just the Christian genocide. But let's make it, a little bit clear. This is a different president. Just a couple of months ago, we saw the Ukrainian president come into the White House, that infamous meeting at the Oval Office. And, the president of the United States made it very clear that if the United States would defend Ukraine, they have to sign a mineral deal, which means that the United States will get something in return. Right. That has not been expressed by the United States, that if they come to Nigeria to decimate, obliterate, the terrorists that have been terrorizing the country, that there's going to be a mineral deal or any kind of deal at all. It's very expensive to actually wage war. For instance, deploying, those fighter jets to Nigeria, it's quite expensive. We don't know how the United States is going to recoup that. That has not been stated. It's still within the realm of speculations that, the United States might have ulterior motives to Nigeria. So we can base our judgment on those speculations, both on social media and on traditional media. But one thing is very sure about, the intent of the president. He has said it, that he wants that wanton killing to stop.
Reports also have it that the U.S. had been supporting Nigeria in fighting terrorism for years without visible impact or results. And that has infuriated President Trump. So how do you balance this with him having an ulterior motive or not having an ulterior motive?
Yes, so we have trails of evidence that the United States, since the advent of Boko Haram in 2009 or thereabout, they've been supporting Nigeria directly or indirectly. Have been given, the Nigerian military this support. And if you could recall that during the Jonathan's administration, they actually helped Nigeria in some ways. Again, under Obama administration, the Tucano fighter jets were not sold to Nigeria because for some reason the administration felt probably it's not the right time. There was a regime change. Buhari came into power, and Buhari was able to gain access to those fighter jets, which to some extent, helped Nigeria to, fight against the insurgency in the country. Whether the United States is willing to go further to help Nigeria to get some of those even more sophisticated fighter jets, we don't know that. There's no high-level talks between the two countries on how to purchase those, military hardware that could help the country. I believe that the Nigerian government is actually looking at alternatives, maybe turning to the east, turning to China to get those, ammunition. And I think that's where the conspiracy theories actually come, about that perhaps maybe China is making some inroads in Nigeria, and the United States are very uncomfortable about that. And there are also conspiracy theories about, the United States trying to set base in Nigeria the military base. Recall that, of course, Nigeria rejected that some years back. And some of those conspiracy theorists are feeling that by this, intervention from the United States for this so-called Christian genocide, the United States could, in the long term, negotiate and see how they can set bases in Nigeria. So those are still within the realm of speculations. We don't really know, but what we know for sure is that we'll take, the words of, both leaders, just, from what they said. But we're not going to, try to like read meanings into that that would, in some way, further create another narrative that could further, derail, these actions that's about to take place.
So now this is my last question to you. Okay, yeah, this is my last question to you, Rotimi, and I need you to be less diplomatic in providing an answer to this. Right? How would you generally, in your own opinion, this is your assessment now. I need you to give a cursory assessment of the political will to actually stamp out terrorism and banditry in Nigeria. Do you suspect some fifth columnist?
Well, I do, because I mean, the United States have actually offered help to when this was still within the early stages of Boko Haram. They've offered help, to wage war against them and defeat them. That help, we don't know to what extent it was able to help Nigeria, but we've not seen the result. And I think the United States pulled back even when it was obvious that while they're offering the help, we have a lot of people that are fifth columnists within the military apparatus, and they were giving those information, to the terrorists. So the terrorists have a first-hand information about, the operations, where the operation is going to be next and all that. And I think the United States at the time were very uncomfortable because it pretty much looked like you can't really work in that kind of environment to achieve results. And that has always been the suspicion that the two countries actually have against each other. So at this point, I'm not going to say that they will not share intelligence. It's very important because the United States might not know the terrain of Nigeria as much as Nigerians or the Nigerian military do. So there need to be some sort of cooperation. There need to be some sort of, sharing of intelligence that would help. Both, government need to come together and sit on the round table and decide if they actually want to end terrorism in Nigeria by, cooperating. Without that, it's going to be counterproductive to whatever the United States is going to be doing because they can have strikes in some, locations in the north, but we know that the Boko Haram or whatever bandits, they are ragtag, terrorist organization. They mingle with the people. So it's going to be very hard to track, them and, for once destroy them. So there needs to be some sort of, cooperation. If that can be achieved, I think, Boko Haram and terrorism in Nigeria is going to be a thing of the past.
That was going to be my last question to you, but let me quickly chip this in, since like a follow-up, sort of. You're suggesting that the Nigerian government and the U.S. government jaw rather than war.
Yeah.
Don't you think it's a crunch time? Is it not a day late, a dollar shot? Would you say President Trump is still willing to come to a negotiating table with Nigeria?
Well, I believe so. If there's a diplomatic, what I would say now, JoJo, as you said, where maybe Nigeria diplomats and ministers are reaching out with the State Department, and they are willing to share those information, share those intelligence, and say, "Here, we're willing. We'll need your help." It's not a way of the way it's been saying right now, like, oh, Nigeria is a sovereign nation. We don't want invasion, and it's not an invasion. So if at that level they can discuss, and I think that is quite achievable. Don't forget that what the president said was, President Trump, I mean, was conditional. He said, if the Nigerian government, so that's a conditional statement there. So he's not saying that's an outright. So there could be some sort of talks. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors. We don't know whether both leaders have actually talked. We don't know whether their emissaries have been, sent back and forth to transmit information and all that. We actually don't have, we're not privy to those,
Absolutely.
backstage or backstories. And I think that's just one of the things that could make this particular actions or inaction more debatable in the future.
I see. Okay, well, one never can tell. As much as Nigeria hasn't got ambassadors at the moment, it's not unlikely that there is some form of shelter diplomacy kind of going on behind closed doors. Rotimi, you've done justice to this chat today. I must say a big thank you to you. Thank you very much indeed for coming on Arise America.